Wow, this year is already flying by. 3 days are done. 3 days are gone. It is technically January 4th because I'm up too late again. It's past midnight, and 3 days of the year already gone. I hope you've spent them productively because we're not getting this time back. I hope you spent it productively. If you haven't, pick up the pace. I mean, if you got some New Year's goals, some New Year's resolutions, I've got my list of goals right in front of me. If you got a list of goals, you better step on the gas because this time passes by and you don't get it back. The time you spent, you get to reap the rewards of, and the time that you wasted, you will regret in the future. I'm telling that from experience. I have a lot of, I wouldn't say regrets anymore. I've come to accept the mistakes that I've made as just a part of my journey, but I sure wouldn't mind if I, don't repeat those mistakes in the future. And even if I could avoid those kinds of mistakes, even if by luck or chance I get to avoid making mistakes in the future, I'm down. I'm happy with that. Luckily for me, I've been quite fortunate, and the past 3 days, I've actually gone and done a little bit more than I was supposed to. If you don't know me, my name is Ivan, and one of my goals this year was to do 100,000 push-ups, in the year. So that's easy to say, not too easy to do, but so far, I'm actually a little bit ahead of schedule. For the past 5 or 6 weeks, I've been doing 200 push ups a day. And at the start, I was kind of like, can I even do this? And then I realized, like, this is actually pretty easy as long as I don't approach it like a complete fool. I think most people could do this stuff. Most people who could do push ups can do 200 push ups a day. Now, if you can't do push ups, then obviously you're not going to be able to. But if you can, and you approach the challenge with some intelligence, with some wisdom, you don't just throw everything at the wall. You don't just like do a set, as many push ups as you can, and then realize, like, whoa, this is actually kind of a lot of push ups. I give up. If you're not that guy and you see like, oh, 200 push ups a day is only 20 sets of 10, I could do a set of 10. I could give myself a little break. I could do another set of 10. If you approach it with some intelligence, then this kind of challenge is actually not that hard. It's the real hard part is the mindset, getting your head right, and actually showing up. Actually saying to yourself, I'm going to do this today. That's the hard part. Actually getting down on the floor and doing the very first set of push-ups, that's the real hard part. All the sets after that, they're just as easy as the first set, but getting there is not always easy. And that was where I was really struggling at the beginning, is just getting myself to do the push-ups. Now that I've kind of gotten into the rhythm of it, it's a bit easier, but still, I don't want to get down and do push-ups, so that really is the hard part. But I've been able to do actually a little more. I've been taking the extra step every single day. And even though my goal was 200 push ups a day, I've been doing at least 250. And the past 3 days, part of this goal of hitting 100,000 push ups in 2025 was actually to do 350 push ups a day, which is quite the increase. That is 100 push ups more than I've been doing. That's 150 more than I was aiming for. And like I said, I'm a little bit ahead of schedule. I've been doing a little bit more than that. I'll talk about that, the numbers in a bit. I don't want to get into that right now. What I did want to say is I wanted to give a shout out, actually. There's this guy named Kevin McCullum. I think that's his name. He's in Illinois, just like me. And he actually completed his millionth push up on December 29th, 2024. He just did it a couple days ago. And I think that's awesome. I just found out about this guy last year. He was trying to get a bunch of people to do push ups. One of his goals was to get like 1 million people to do 1 million push-ups, which is really just one push-up per person. I don't know if he got that. I know he reached his own goal for the push-ups. I don't know about his other goals, but he has this brand that he started called Anyone Can Do Anything. I believe it's ACDA. Anyone Can Do Anything. Yeah, ACDA. And if you can't tell, this is a guy that really gets my philosophy, my mentality. This is someone who I can agree with. And I didn't actually start the challenge because of him. I started it a bit before I found out about him. But regardless, he already completed 1 million push-ups, and it took him about 9 years, maybe 10 years to do this, which means on average, he was doing 100,000 push-ups per year. So for me to be able to do 100,000 push-ups would be just really awesome. And one interesting thing is, even though this guy can do 1 million push-ups, he's been posting on Instagram lately other things that are actually difficult to him that he doesn't train. And he did like 4 pull-ups. And I think that's so funny that this guy can set his mind on doing 1 million push-ups. He could run, 10 plus miles of half marathon. He could do all this stuff. But because he specialized so much in the push-ups, he cannot do pull-ups for his life. I mean, he could do 4 pull-ups barely. Like, I think he did 4.5 his first attempt. And that's not to bag on him. That's just so interesting to me to be able to see how, if you're not balancing this equation that is the human body, you're going to have some weak spots. And there's no way to completely cover everything. Of course, you're always going to have areas that are weaker than others. But if you focus on your weaknesses, over time, you're just going to be stronger. You're just going to be way stronger. Because think about this. You've got a weakness, right? You know it. You address it. You work on it. You put some time into it. And suddenly, after a couple months of work, that weakness has now become a strength. I noticed this, I believe it was 2 years ago, when I really first started doing pull-ups. Because despite me spending a decade in fitness training myself, I never really did pull-ups. I never really did the pull-down machine, the lat pull-down. I never really trained my back with anything other than the occasional deadlift, which I did very rarely. I injured my back doing deadlifts back when I was a teenager, and so I just avoided them like the plague. And so when I actually started doing pull-ups, I started at the exact same place that Kevin's at right now. I started with 4 reps. But what I did is I did 5 sets of 4 reps, and I would do that every day. And so even though my limit was not very good, I wasn't able to do too many pull-ups, eventually I built up to doing 5 sets of 5, and then 5 sets of 6 or 6 sets of 5. And then I started doing weighted pull-ups, and I got my weighted pull-up all the way up to, I believe I did a single with 78 pounds last year. It was like not a year ago, maybe 10 months ago. I did a single rep with 78 pounds in the weighted pull-up. And that's a huge improvement from doing just 4 reps. That's a massive improvement. And it just goes to show, like, you work on a weakness, you get better. And with the push-ups, it's not that this has been a weak point of mine. Clearly, I've done a ton of push-ups, but there are areas that I still lack in. One of these areas being my endurance. See, I'm like 20 pounds heavier than I was last year at this time. Maybe not 20 pounds exactly, maybe like 18 pounds or pretty close to 20 pounds, all right? Pretty close to 20 pounds heavier than I was. And so my endurance in the push-ups is not really that great. And one thing that I've started to implement is some higher reps, because up until this point, I've basically focused on doing sets of 10. I've just focused on getting high reps in total. Like the sum is going to be a high number in the, hundreds. But if you look at each individual set, it wasn't ever that difficult. And so I've wanted to start challenging myself a bit more. On the third day here, which is not come up yet, but on the third day, I started doing sets of 20. This was January 2nd, so you'll see when it comes up. I started doing sets of 20, and the first set was pretty good. Then it was still pretty good, and after 5 sets, I started seeing some fatigue set in. And that was interesting because I haven't felt fatigue doing push-ups in a long time, just because I've never really pressed myself that much. And yeah, it's just interesting because I feel like kind of embarrassed. I don't even want to talk about this because, why would anyone want to talk about their weaknesses? But it's true. I felt some fatigue doing sets of 20. And after doing 10 sets of 20, I decided I don't want to do this anymore. I'm doing sets of 15. I called it quits. I was at first thinking like, I'm just going to do sets of 20. I'm a grown man. I could do whatever I want. But when I actually started doing them, I realized, okay, I was not prepared. Even though it's just double a set of 10, it's probably like 4 times as hard. I don't think it's twice as hard. I think it's exponentially more difficult to do more. Because every previous rep has fatigued you a little bit. And I don't currently have the endurance to be able to withstand that fatigue. I just haven't trained for it. Now, if I were to push myself to failure and to do it quite often, then maybe even when I do feel fatigued, I am still able to push through it and, keep going. But at the point I am at now, that's not really possible. I could tell if I really, really try to do sets of 20, eventually I'm going to fail a set. There's going to come a point where either on the 19th or the 18th or maybe just the last rep, I'm not going to be able to pick myself up. And that is something I don't want to admit, but it's true. I could feel the fatigue setting in. Now, one of the reasons for this might be because I've been going quite fast. I really have been pushing myself just to get the reps done. I don't want to waste time. And I've kind of thrown a lot of what I've been talking about lately out the window. I threw out the form stuff. My form has changed a little bit in that I'm no longer doing the hollow body position. And sometimes I'm not even locking out my elbows at the top, I'll admit. But I'm still aiming to touch my chest to the floor. I'm still trying to get it just about every rep I'm getting it. And that's good enough for me, honestly. I'm just trying to get these done quickly and get them out of the way because there's a lot of push-ups to do. And if I could cross a day off of my list, that's good. That's really good. And when you're doing like 350 push-ups a day, I mean, it's nice just to be able to say, I'm done for the day and move on to something else. Like, I don't want to be there all day doing the push-ups because the push-ups are only a part of this challenge. A big part of this challenge for me is actually that I edit the video, right? I cut the video down so that you only see the push-ups. You don't see me getting down. You don't see me getting up. You only see me performing the push-ups. Another part of it is actually compiling them together. I put them together and then I count the reps. I count every single rep to make sure that what I've been tracking is not incorrect, because sometimes I miss a rep. Sometimes I do an extra rep. Sometimes instead of doing a set of 10, I do a set of 8 or a set of 9 or a set of 11 or 12 or just something else. And if I'm not actually diligent about it, I'm going to make a mistake. And I want to avoid that because that would be going against what the challenge is for me. For me, this challenge is not only about doing the push-ups, but it's about tracking them, and it's about showing that every single rep is done. I've done every single rep, and every rep was a real push-up. It wasn't some half, I was about to swear. I don't know if that's actually a swear. I don't know if ass is a swear. Some half-assed reps. I don't want to do that. I got a comment the other day on my last push-up video where this guy says to try out some half reps and just do a bunch of volume, which is a totally legitimate way to train. I don't want to bag on this guy, right? This guy is offering a great way to train. But for my challenge, I just can't apply that because I want every rep full range of motion, you know, touching my chest to the floor, locking my elbows out at the top. I know I'm not doing it every rep, but as close as I can to a full rep. I don't want to do half reps. I thought about it, but I don't feel like that really fits in with what I'm doing here. And it is a totally legit way to train. It is a totally legit way to get a ridiculous pump and actually get really strong, build a ton of endurance. That's a great way to train. But it doesn't exactly line up with what I'm doing here. So, sorry, buddy, I had to ignore that one. Now, that's okay. That's totally fine. People have their advice that they want to give, and I'm willing to listen, but I'm going to be very picky about what I actually decide to apply, because at the end of the day, our perception of what this challenge is might not line up. And what I see as the proper way for me to approach this challenge is naturally going to be the route that I take. And that's okay, because everyone does things their own way. Now, maybe I'm making a mistake. That's up to me to make and for me to learn from, and that's okay. I admit that, yeah, maybe it is a mistake to not take this advice. Maybe I should just do 1,000 reps a day, get this challenge done in under, 3 years. And, I know I wouldn't be satisfied with that. I know I wouldn't. Sure, I could do a set of 50. I could do 20 sets of 50 and do half reps and get an incredible pump. But am I going to be able to do that the next day? And am I going to be able to keep doing that? I just don't know. It brings some uncertainty to my mind. And so I can't apply it, unfortunately. Honestly, anything that makes this challenge go faster is nice. It's nice to hear. It's nice to think about. But one of the things that makes this a challenge for me is that there really is no way around it. 1 million is 1 million. It's not 999,999. It is 1 million. And so if I make a mistake in the counting of this, and let's say I complete the challenge in 10 years, let's say it takes me 10 years, I complete it, and someone drops a comment like, hey buddy, I just counted, and in this video, you actually did a set of 10 instead of a set of 12. You said you did a set of 12. You actually only did a set of 10. That would weigh on me heavily, and I'd probably make a video just doing 2 push-ups, even though I would have already technically completed the challenge in my own mind. I would see that, I'd see my mistake, and I'd think man, I'm an idiot. I gotta do these 2 push-ups. And that would actually weigh on me so much that I'd probably okay, so I'm assuming that I'm gonna be just filthy rich at this point in 10 years. I'd just hire freaking assistants to scan through all the videos and count every single rep again to make sure that I didn't mess up. I wanna know if I say I'm doing 1 million push-ups, I'm doing 1 million push-ups. I don't want to half-ass it. And one of the things that's, you know, that kind of sucks about that is that I'm taking this challenge super seriously, right? Even though I've taken months off, in my mind, the work I put out there, I want it to be good. I don't want it to be half-assed, garbage, nonsense. I want it to be good and I want it to be valuable and I want people to be able to look at it and see like, wow, maybe I could do this too. Wow, uh, I can listen to that. I can take this advice. I can apply this here. I can use this, right? I can use this. That's what I want. I want people to see these videos and see that this is some valuable stuff. This isn't just some nonsense that some, nobody living under a freaking rock came up with. This is a guy who's actually showing up day in, day out, putting in the work and working on himself. That's what I want people to see. And so at the end of the day, I'm picking my way. Whatever way I decide this thing is going to go is the way it's going to go. And right now, it is, it's kind of going like this. I've been doing sets of 15 because I realized sets of 20 are kind of tough. So I just decided sets of 15, it's right in the middle. It's still an improvement. It still makes it quite easy to track these push-ups because if I do 25 sets of 15, like I did on this last day, January 3rd, 25 sets of 15 is 375. That puts me a little bit over my goal of 350 push-ups a day. And that's awesome. And that's a surplus. That's a surplus of 25 push-ups. Every little surplus I could get, like on January 2nd, where I got 425, that's a surplus of 75 push-ups above my goal. Every little surplus I get and I add allows me some breathing room. And it actually brings me even closer to my goal than I would be otherwise if I just hit that deadline. If I just hit what I was aiming for with 350, it would take me longer. I'm already 100 push-ups ahead of schedule. I am already 1% done with my goal this year. I'm 1% done. I've already done 1,000 push-ups this year. My goal is 100,000. I've already done 1,000. That's pretty good. And actually, I've done 100 over that. I've done 1,050 plus 100. So if I just stuck to the 350 a day, I'd be at 1,050. But because I did that little extra work, I did those couple sets extra, I'm now at 1,150. And that means I've bought myself a little time. If there comes a day, a rainy day, where I decide like, man, I gotta rest. I'm freaking going wild out here. I'm drying up. My muscles are drying up. I'm running out of creatine from the red meat that I'm eating. I don't take supplements. I'm freaking drying up, right? If there comes a point where I feel like I really just need a break, if I can get this surplus big enough, I could take a day off with zero regrets. Let's say I make a surplus of 3,000 push-ups. Suddenly, that's what, is that 8 days? I could take a whole week off, go on vacation, don't do any push-ups, and still feel good about myself because I'm on track to hit my goal. And that's what this is all about. Taking that little extra step. I don't have to be doing these push-ups. You could just sit on the couch, do whatever you want. You don't have to do the push-ups either. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, except myself. So that's what this is about, taking that extra step and leaving a profit. I'm going to make a video about this, leaving a profit. There's a great quote from one of my mentors, Jim Rohn, in which he says, leaving a profit is super easy. You don't have to leave a profit for yourself. Making a profit in a business might not seem super easy, but making a profit for someone else can be so simple. The example he used is when you leave something better than you found it, you are making a profit. You're making a profit for someone else. If you just turn off the lights in your hotel room, you're making a profit for them. They don't have to pay that electricity. What? It's a couple coins, but if everyone does it, that stuff adds up throughout the whole year, throughout the years. That's a profit. That's a big profit. And I've been thinking about how this word profit is actually very interesting because the people in the Bible, the people from our history, which we look at as wise and as God's people, they're referred to as prophets. People who bring a message to raise up others are known as prophets. They left the world better than they found it, better than they entered it. Isn't that amazing? You could be a prophet too. If you leave a prophet, you are a prophet. You are a prophet among your peers, among the people around you, among your family. If you just wash the dishes, if you clean the house up, you are leaving a prophet. You're leaving something better than you found it. And it's just interesting to me that these two words, prophet and prophet, the prophet as a person versus prophet as a verb, as making, more money or a little benefit, they essentially mean the same thing, even though they're two words. They're two different words, but they essentially mean the same thing. That's just super interesting to me. And you can leave a profit too. If you leave something better than you found it, you make an improvement somewhere. You're leaving a profit. You're making the world a better place. And that's kind of one of the messages that I want to spread here is don't just be selfish and do things for yourself. Make the world a better place. One of the reasons I'm doing this challenge is not only for myself to push myself and challenge myself and make myself better, but also to inspire others because I want people to see this and think, wow, that's cool. That's a big number. I've never even counted that high, and this guy's done that many freaking push-ups, right? I want to leave a profit so someone else can have a better life. Thank you for watching. I did quite a bit of push-ups here. Over the course of 4 days, I did 1,440 push-ups. Adding that to my 54,544 brings me to 55,984 push-ups completed so far. Click that link below to work one-on-one with me. Thank you once again for watching, and I guess I'll just have to see you in the next one.